Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We have another interview today. I'm really excited about this because Molly is signed to Colorize Music. She is now DJing around the world and playing her music alongside her favorite producers, but the beautiful thing is she's one of our Accelerator alumni. We talk about so much interesting stuff about her journey from never having produced anything to now being signed to one of the most prominent labels in the world in her genre and DJing alongside her favorite artists. We get some incredible insights into the mindset it takes to achieve this in such a short amount of time, and it really is an inspiring story. You can check Molly's music out below this video, and I've also linked to one of her excellent DJ sets too. My sincere apologies for the dodgy camera focus. I'm kind of new to this interview game, and next time I'll get a proper videographer to help, but don't let it distract from the quality of the interview. So without further ado, let's meet Molly, aka Mölly.
Molly, thank you for joining me on both EDM Tips and at ADE. So I wanted to have a conversation with you today about your music and, of course, your success in the last year or two. And firstly, let's clear things up. How do you pronounce your artist name perfectly?
It's Mölly.
Mölly,
Yeah.
because of the umlaut
Yeah,
over the
thank
O.
you.
Okay.
Thanks for asking.
So you make melodic house, I guess, would be the best way of describing your genre.
Yeah.
And you're signed exclusively to Colorize Music now, aren't you?
I am.
Which is great because it's such a fantastic label.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Very
So
cool.
could you share with us a little bit about how you got into music production and maybe any music background you had before
Yeah,
that?
absolutely. Well, I didn't have any background in music. So
None at all?
None at all. I played the piano a little bit growing up, but I always liked to memorize all of the songs. I never wanted to read the music.
I was the same.
Yeah. So didn't really come in handy now, but I think it's kind of intuitively there though, to some degree. But yeah, I think what really it stems back to, what got me into music as a whole was a broken heart, actually. And it was one of the most painful experiences of my life. And it was such a gift because it led me to electronic music and Juna Deep specifically, and all the amazing artists there. And I found so much healing from music. And I feel like that's a really important part of my story because it's incredibly tied to my intention with music and my experience of it.
Yeah.
I think when you have such a real, raw experience with it, for me at least, I wanted to explore it and understand it, really similar to yoga and meditation. Yeah, basically just found myself constantly going to shows, really specifically the melodic house spoke to me and resonated so deeply. And so in 2020, when everything shut down, I was kind of just always had this really strong inkling that made no sense because I have no background in music. That was just learn how to DJ. So I just taught myself how to DJ and genuinely never envisioned any of this. It was just so pure and from the heart and maybe I'll make a mix.
Wow. So you turned that heartbreak into something positive.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
Yeah, the most potent gifts of my life, for sure.
Right, yeah. I think from my personal experience as well and the people that I've spoken to and worked with, you've kind of got a choice in that situation. You can let it break you or you can turn it into something positive, which you clearly have done.
That's the alchemy.
Yeah. But you also mentioned yoga as well and meditation because you are a yoga teacher as well.
I am,
are you not?
believe it or not.
Yeah, so those style of music is, that's why it's one of my favourite styles as well. It's just soothing for the soul, I think.
It's really incredible music. It's changed my life.
Yeah, and you've really taken it and run with it. In a couple of years, you've gone from literally never producing to now being one of Colorize's flagship artists.
Yeah.
And what have you got coming up? I think you've got an EP signed with them, or is it more than that? Is it an album?
Not an album yet, but I'm definitely mentally preparing for an album at some point.
That's so cool.
But yeah, there's some stuff in the works, but I'm just starting a 5 or 6 track EP right now. So
nice.
My first body of work, which is really exciting.
Excellent. And you DJ'd, of course, at the Colorize gig at ADE, I think 2 nights ago, wasn't it?
Woo.
Which was really good. Very much enjoyed that, alongside, was it Rob East and then Claire as well?
Yeah.
And a few other great artists.
Amazing. Really incredible.
It was a good night.
It was a great start.
Yeah. Cool. So I was going to ask if there were any pivotal experiences early in your... Oh, no, this is a different question, actually. So were there any pivotal experiences that helped shape your approach to making music?
Absolutely. So many. And what's funny is that, like, when I link all of this back, so much of it is like approach that is interwoven with mindset. And I read an amazing book, which also changed my life, called The Creative Act by Rick Rubin.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure if you're familiar. Yeah. And I think the approach to music really stems so closely to the mindset, especially having no background in music. It was kind of like, what am I doing? Like, who do I actually think I am right now? Just approaching such an impossible task. Well, it felt impossible at the time. And really learning kind of like the secret, I think, which is how to like really change your thoughts and change your mind and believe that you can do it. So that book, I mean, I could probably quote the entire book, but that really shifted how, like, wow, I can do this.
Yeah. I
am an artist. And to see the world as art as well, and integrate that into your music. But that was a big one. We'll
link to that book below for sure.
Please, yeah, absolutely. I think everyone needs to read that.
Yeah.
A little bit more philosophical, but I think it's part of the reason why I'm here, to be honest.
Personally, I think unless you've got some philosophy to back up your actions, I mean, that's the first thing. That's the inception, is the philosophy that leads to the actions.
Exactly.
Getting too deep now.
Yes. No. I mean, that's where I'm at. And then, of course, the action is so important, right? Like,
oh, yeah.
There's the...
yeah.
We can talk about all the, like, spiritual, mental mindset stuff, but the action is just as important, obviously. And the mentality of like, keep going. Also listening to so many artists being interviewed and hearing what they had to say. And not even just artists, like people who are really successful at what they do. And everyone, if you really listen, kind of says the same thing.
Yeah.
Just maybe in different ways.
Yeah, and it shows through in your work ethic. You know, there are a few people, I know we worked together a bit last year, meeting the people that achieve the biggest things. They've got such work ethic. And you were like that when we were working together, and I'm sure you're like that now. You know, you just work hard a lot.
That's really like, because eventually you're going to get there, you know, especially when the heart is driven by intention, you know, because it connects you to something that's so meaningful and purposeful to you. And so that's what keeps me going, right? If I didn't really have an intention, I don't know if I would have stuck with it, because it's the hardest thing I've ever done. And I think also, I guess going back to the approach as well, I feel is so important to share, is like this constant practice and devotion really of like staying aligned with who you are and what's authentic to you. And like that has really helped shape my music as well, because I think there can be a tendency to get really lost and stuck in maybe trends or what other artists are doing or what you think you should be doing or what you think the audience wants to hear or other artists want to hear. And I like kind of my compass was just like, what speaks to me? Like, what do I want to say? What do I want to share?
Yeah.
And I think that's like the most important thing, because we all have a story to share.
So, I mean, when we spoke in San Francisco a week or two ago, there was something you said which I found to be very true in my career, and for a lot of other students who have got good quite quickly, which you've definitely, you know, your trajectory has been unusually fast. And it was about focusing in on getting good and listening to a lot of music in that style, which kind of, it doesn't go against what you've just said, because your natural voice kind of came through that anyway. Exactly. I mean, can you speak on that? Was that a big part of how you got that, especially things like drums, which are less... It's less noticeable if you've got drums that are similar to other tracks in your genre.
Yeah.
When it comes to melodies and things like that, you can hear if you've like ripped off a melody, but with the drums particularly, surely you must have referenced a lot to actually
Absolutely
nail down that sound.
Yeah, it's funny you bring that up. I think drums are my weak point.
Right.
And they were definitely something that I'm still working at. But in the beginning, I actually never got the drums right. And that's actually such a crucial part. I was so focused on chord progressions and melodies and atmospheres that I kind of missed the drums. And especially in melodic house, in Colorize as well, there's very specific drums.
Yeah.
You know, anything that's kind of your weak point when you focus, it's a good thing. I'm like looking for those because that's like how you get stronger, right? And for a while, drums, I was like, I don't want to go there. It's too much. It's scary. But now I'm really listening in for the drums. And so I don't know if that answered your question.
Yeah, so it's easy to kind of fall back on, in my experience at least, do the things that you're comfortable with and enjoy, rather than focusing on the hard things that you don't
In the beginning, for me, because just tackling music production as a whole was just so overwhelming.
There's so much to learn.
There's so much. And with like no experience, it was just like, where do I begin?
Yeah.
So I think chord progressions are where I start everything. It's like the feeling of the song. So I really started there.
Yeah.
And then once, you feel comfortable and built a level of confidence on just how to make a track.
And you've got a new track that's come out recently.
Yeah.
It's The Leap.
The Leap.
Yeah, which is beautiful. In fact, when we were driving down from San Francisco after meeting you, we always listen to music in the car. In fact, we listen to music all the time. But my wife had this track come on. I was like, oh, what's this? It's really good. And she kind of giggled, and it was your track. It was like, and that was really great for that to happen. So can you tell us a bit about how that came about?
Yeah, that's a really special song for me. That's also started with a chord progression, but I was going to London to Colorize, to the Enhanced Studios for a bit this summer to be in the studio and collaborate with other artists. And so I was making a bunch of demos. And I think it's such a beautiful reflection of really the music production process as a whole, because, you're like, oh, I got to make like 15, 20 demos, like, let's go. And I'm going through it and just like working. And then finally, like, my dad was actually visiting for the weekend, and my dad is also really the huge reason that I'm here in my approach to life. And he believes so deeply in me and has always believed in me. And I think, in music production, there's a lot of waves, a lot of roller coasters. And amidst like 15 demos, I was kind of at a point of like, oh my God, like, what am I doing? What am I creating right now? Like, it's not feeling like me entirely yet. And we had dinner, and it just felt like very inspired, always so inspired by him. He's always pushed me to pursue my dream. And after we met, like the next day, I started making a demo from scratch, and it just like came within like a few hours. It was like one of the most fluid experiences I think I've ever had with music.
Nice. And
it was really a beautiful, sacred moment in time. And it finally felt like this expression of me and like what I want to share, both sonically, melodically, and also like the message. It really was the first song that I was just like, I had it on repeat. It was really very emotional. And so I called it Believe, actually. That was like the title of the demo.
Right.
Yeah. And I went into all these sessions with the vocalist. And of course, that was like the one demo that every vocalist like loved, because of course it's like so from the heart. Yeah, first day I met Courtney Storm, and she wanted to sing to it, and she absolutely crushed it. And we wrote the song together, which was also really special, like being in the space together and writing the lyric. I didn't even really have to tell her what it was about. It was kind of pretty obvious. Yeah, that's how that one came to life. Again, it was like the first experience I've had with music that it just like happened,
Yeah.
And I kept hearing about that, reading about that, and I'm like, why hasn't that happened? So that was really special. And of course, like the message behind it is really about trust, and again, kind of ties into my whole journey with music production and believing in yourself, and just like keep going and taking a massive leap of faith. and how empowering and courageous that is.
Yeah.
So,
Well, we'll obviously link to that and all your music below this video. And again, this is just my opinion, but all of that work that you've done up to now, all of those tracks you've written, have kind of given you the skills. So when that flash came, you could put it down, you know.
Exactly.
Whereas when you're just starting, you might have this kind of flash, but you just don't have the skills to put it into reality. Yeah.
Yes, and that was probably the most overwhelming part for me in the beginning. It was like, I feel like I have so much to share.
Yeah, for sure.
And like there's a massive gap. And I think the gap is probably the hardest part, because it's like I'm here and I want to be here. You know, I'm listening to Tin Liquor or Ben, and I'm just like, oh, that's speaking to me, but I don't know how to create that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what I was actually trying to say in the beginning, of how it really was a beautiful reflection of the music production process, because I'm like working so hard and just showing up again and again, creating demos and just like keep going.
Yeah.
And then it comes, right? But it comes, and because you put in so much work. And I think that's so important, because there was moments that I didn't really realize that, and I would be like, why isn't it just coming through me? And it's not just like easily like so fluid, but it becomes fluid when there's a deep level of devotion, you know, of showing up over and over and doing the work.
Yeah, it's kind of like learning a language. You know, I imagine kids are really frustrated because that's why they cry all the time, because they want to say something or communicate something, but they just can't do it yet. They haven't learned the language to communicate that yet.
Yes.
And you have now, and it comes through in that track.
Yeah, thank you. And it's a work in process for sure. It's like...
So, I mean, that's a big problem, as you said, when you've got this gap, because your taste is here, but your skills are here. And the only way to bridge that gap is by just working and working and working and producing stuff that's not good enough yet, not good enough yet. So how did you, apart from your deep devotion and that kind of spiritual fire, was there anything that helped you get over not yet producing that level that you wanted to? Yeah.
Oh, I mean, yeah, it's so hard not to link it back to mindset, because mindset is everything, and that's really what you're battling with at a certain point.
Yeah.
Because everyone can do it. Like, we have so much power that we haven't even tapped into as humans. And so, sorry, I won't go back to the mindset just yet, but I think that was a really important thing that I learned, honestly, through you. I was such a perfectionist, and I was so focused on one track, like my very first track, and like making it perfect and spending so much time. And so many people told me this. So if you're listening, please listen to this, because I didn't, of just like, make as many tracks as you can. And especially, I mean, always, but in the beginning, like just, it does not have to be perfect. In fact, it's better if it's not. And the making of more and more tracks, like you just inevitably learn and you create new patterns and habits, even just like in your work ethic, right? Like when you show up and you're like, I'm going to make a track. So that was a crucial part in bridging at least some little millimeter of the gap, was just like the repetition. Because for me, I was like creating an entirely new habit and pattern. And again, speaking a new language, it's like anything, like playing basketball, like it's repetition. Yeah. So that helped a lot, and kind of honing in as well. I think we've spoken about this on like a genre, because I'm sure many people are called to so many different types of music.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I felt like, all right, just focus on this for now. This speaks to you right now. You can evolve and grow. Like, it's not like forever. It's not permanent. And so that honing in on a very niche type of music also, I think, made it less overwhelming, at least production. But the gap, I'm still figuring out the gap.
Yeah, well, maybe that's just a lifelong thing.
Yeah, right. But I think also trusting, someone was just telling me this a few weeks ago, like trusting your taste has also gotten me to be like, it's a beautiful thing that there's a gap, right? Because you have a high quality of taste. And with the work ethic, like you're going to get there, because you can learn anything. Yeah. But the taste is so valuable, because again, it links to you and your story and your voice. So.
Yeah. And actually, if you don't have that high standard of taste, then you'll produce something that sounds bad, and you wouldn't know it sounds bad.
Yeah.
So you've got that pain of not being good enough is just so important.
Yeah.
Because then it pushes you to learn more and practice more.
Yeah. Exactly.
So you're getting loads of listens as well and streams. You're getting over 55,000 a month, I think, last time I checked. Probably more now. And how does it feel to be a music producer now? I mean, you said that it was something that you didn't really imagine when you started DJing.
Never.
And do you feel any different?
I actually feel more like myself.
Love it.
Yeah. I think I really identify, I don't like the word identify, I really resonate with being an artist. And I think I've always been an artist, but I've played sports a lot of my life. So I was always like, I'm not creative. And I think overcoming something that at once felt so impossible has really helped me see that, well, first of all, we can do anything. But I am an artist and I am creative, and we're all creative. And again, we all have something to share. So it doesn't really feel any different, but I feel more inspired and motivated for sure, and authentic.
Excellent.
Yeah, to like actually have a channel that you can express yourself through is really powerful.
Yeah. And I'm just checking some of the questions we've got here, because we had some from our Accelerator students as well.
Oh, nice.
Which I always try and get some in there as well.
That's so special.
But are there any, I suppose, moving more into the industry side of things, are there any specific skills that you feel are crucial for a music producer to succeed in today's industry? I mean, you've spoken about the need to just work and practice hard and have that mindset in a fire. Are there any other particular skills that you think are really important? I guess mindset-wise, for instance, like being comfortable with feedback, networking, anything like that. Is there anything that when you think about it, you think that's a killer skill to have and you kind of need that?
Oof, good question. Resilience, for sure.
Resilience.
Yeah, I think it was really nice you spoke to that about feedback. Something that I actually don't really know if I had as much in the beginning, and would kind of get crushed with feedback. But with resilience comes, like, again, the capacity to like keep going and keep moving forward, and like I think really shifting again the mindset into things that might be perceived as negative into like tools for growth. I think courage is really necessary, because there's a deep level of courage that comes with expressing yourself and being real and vulnerable. And that's what, for me, that's what music and art is. And that's not always easy. But I am very clear that that's the best work. Sorry, the best is not a good framework to say, but it's the most potent work. And that's what I'm striving for. So I think a level of courage, resilience, and authenticity.
Excellent. Yeah. Okay, thank you. And I mean, we already spoke about The Leap, but is there any other particular projects that you've found especially rewarding? Maybe if it was the first one that got signed, or one that you've particularly enjoyed? Yeah,
gosh, every piece is so rewarding. It's like they're all such a journey, and they all stem, again, from an intention and an experience usually as well. But yeah, I would say the first one I got signed was really special. And that was actually really the first full track, start to finish, like that I was able to create, and also stemmed from like a pretty painful experience, and speaks to kind of what I was just saying of like these like outcomes in life that could be perceived as negative, but when we kind of alchemize them, like there's so much beauty, and I think that's where the real art lives.
Yeah. So
that was really rewarding. Also came from a bit of heartbreak, but ended up in a beautiful track. And
I think probably the best music in the world is always born of heartbreak. Right. Yeah.
It's so universal. It's so relatable.
Well, yeah, that's it. It's so relatable, isn't it?
Exactly.
And when you express that, people understand it.
Yes. Yeah, I think relatability is so important. Just being human, like that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And that's what speaks to people. And so when you do that in your own way.
And another question, which I don't know, I'm not sure you'll like that. Well, okay, I'm just going to I'll throw it out there. In such a competitive industry, how do you maintain your creativity or edge? And I'll just kind of say, I get the feeling that you're not like competing against others, but I don't want to put words in your mouth. But it's a competitive industry, so how do you stay inspired and creative? And
no, honestly, that's
edge?
a great question. And again, I played sports my whole life, so I am actually very competitive. But I do really believe that we're all on the same team as well. And I think when I can get into a comparing mindset, that's kind of where all my spirals will start, and really shifting the lens into we are all on the same team, and we all, again, like everyone has such a unique perspective to share. Yeah, staying creative in a competitive industry, I would say the practices that keep aligning me back into a level of authenticity are like my lifeline for sure. And like, I'm not trying to promote yoga or meditation in any way, but meditation is so important. And again, I would not be here. Like, and I'm so clear on that if I didn't have a daily practice and also a practice of just going out in nature and just remembering and like being in the big picture.
Yeah.
Because I think that also really, you can take a step back from the competitive industry. You know, I think we can all get really honed in on focus.
Yes.
On things that really don't actually matter, you know, but we make them so much bigger than they are. And nature, for me, it's just like boom, like seconds.
I concur with you for that. But I mean, when I was producing a lot of music before running the YouTube channel, which is a very similar, all of what you've spoken about is similar with creating the videos as well.
Yeah, totally.
But for me, going out into nature for a walk and then not competing and comparing to other people and just trying to be authentic, to concur, that's the same for me as well.
Absolutely. And I think the more and more you get comfortable with sharing your voice and being yourself, like it just gets easier over time. And
which takes resilience.
Yeah,
because you're being vulnerable.
Yeah. But those, like, again, a gap in a way, like that you kind of jump out. Like for me, have become shorter and shorter over time, you know? Of like, oh, I see that I'm in the comparing loop, or I see I'm really caught in what other people are doing, or, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then it just, you see it, you catch it, and you're able to come back. But that's thanks to meditation and thanks for planet Earth.
Yeah,
honestly.
So it's just the human condition.
Yes.
But then you've got and again, this is something I fully relate to. And then if you've got through whatever practice you do, the ability to have some self-awareness and catch yourself, and then you've got a choice at that point.
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
So much is about choice.
Yeah.
And that's really difficult, though I do want to speak. It's not like so easy, and again, just like that.
Yeah.
But it's what shapes us into who we are, for sure. And we all have the power of choice, and it's incredibly empowering when you choose something that is beneficial towards your health and well-being.
Yeah.
Because we have decades worth of patterns and habits that aren't necessarily supportive of our mental health and well-being, and we're not even really aware of that. And to put in the work and the time to see those. And then, as you just said, I speak of this all the time in yoga class, like to get to the point where you have the choice and there's a moment and you see it and you have the choice to go one path or the other. And of course, we're human and we're not always going to go down one path, right? But it's, again, repetition and building new skill sets and patterns. And that applies to the mind as well.
Love it. So I want to be respectful of your time. I think this has been fantastic. So before we part, is there anything else that you've got coming up that you'd like to tell our viewers about? We can obviously link to it below.
No.
Okay.
Oh, actually, yes.
Okay.
Bad at self-promotion. I have a new just 2-track EP, but it's coming out November 20th.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not sure what date we're publishing this video, but if it's before November the 20th, did you say?
November 20th, yeah.
Yeah, if it's before then, we'll put the pre-save link. If it's on then or after, we'll obviously link straight to the track. So,
thanks.
and Yeah, Molly's music's excellent, so listen to it. All right, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure to chat.
Thank you.
And have a great rest of ADE.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching, everyone.
I hope you enjoyed that interview and found it as insightful as I did. And don't forget to check out Molly's music below this video. As I mentioned, Molly went through our Accelerator program, so if you'd like to find out more about how you can achieve your goals with your music production, you can check out the details below. And now I want to share with you an interview I had with the lead A&R from Colorize Records, Adam Turner, who is going to share with you some of the tips and strategies for how you can get signed to your favorite record labels. So after smashing like and hopefully subscribing to this channel, you can check out this awesome interview with Adam Turner. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you over there.